Welcome. Hey, Jennifer, what are we going to talk about today on Get Booked?
Oh, I don't know. Let me think. Princesses?
She's been waiting all summer reading to have this one get booked. It's like her favorite.
I really have. You know me too well.
I do. So do you want to go first?
Sure. Alright. For my first book, I have Tuesdays at the Castle by Jessica Day George. This is the first in a 6-book series. All the books are out, so you can just binge them all, which is great. And Tuesdays at the Castle are special because the castle adds a new room every Tuesday, and you never know what it's going to be, or where it's going to be, or what fun you're going to have in that room. But what happens in this book is Celia's parents go off to see her brother graduate. They're the king and queen. And an accident happens on the road, and they are pronounced dead. And one of the, so her brother, of course, is now acting king, and one of their advisors is not really very nice. He's not really a good advisor, and maybe he wants to steal the throne. Maybe.
Is that middle grade or YA?
It's kids and or middle grade.
Okay.
It can go either way. It's one of those, like, in between, like, you could read it either.
Okay, cool. So the first book that I have, we actually don't have on the shelf because I book-wrecked it to a kid a couple weeks ago and it hasn't come back yet. But I think we have the whole series, theoretically. So it is Laura Sebastian's Ash Princess. This is a YA fantasy trilogy. So it is a revenge story if you like a good revenge story. So Theodosia is the princess of this kingdom, and the Kaiser has come in and killed her mother, who was the Fire Queen. And so he won't kill her, because he's one of those, like, evil, like, dictator dudes that's like, no, I'm just going to keep you and parade you around in front of people. And he makes her wear this, because, like, since her mom was the Fire Queen, she has to wear this crown that's, like, ash. And so, he makes her wear it at every, like, formal dinner and gathering, and it's just incredibly humiliating. And so she's just like, I am tired of this. So she creates a plot to try and seduce the Kaiser's son. So to get her revenge and try and get out of everything. So it's a really good revenge story. Things may not go the way you think they're going to go with it because, you know, things happen. So it's pretty cool. I read this last year and I really enjoyed it. If you're looking for like a good escapist read.
Sounds good. I think that's on my list, but I don't think I've actually read that one yet.
You should read it.
Sounds good. Alright, my next one is Rhys Bowen's Her Royal Spyness. This is the first book in the series that is still ongoing. The next book actually comes out next week, so yay!
So know what you're gonna do.
So Lady Victoria Georgiana Charlotte Eugene, she goes by Lady Georgiana. She is actually 34th in line to the throne, and she, her family grew up in Scotland. She doesn't have any money. Her mother has run off with other men. Her father, I believe, is dead. Her grandfather is great, but he's from the working class family. He's awesome. Her brother, however, has inherited everything, and he has a wife who is a little, not just kidding. She's a lot stingy with the money, and so she doesn't want Georgie to have anything. So Lady Georgiana is now on her own. She's trying to figure out life, and the Queen has called her to maybe do a little spying for her. Her son is maybe paying too much attention to this woman who is married and an American, and
Oh no.
I know. Things happen. There's a murder. You know, Georgie has to kind of solve it. And there's some romance, and it's just great. Great characters, a lot of fun.
Cool. So my next book is, actually, it's not really this book, it's the series, but the first one was checked out. The first one is actually called A Queen in Hiding by Sarah Kozloff. She's a New England fantasy writer. She's actually a professor at Vassar. So this one is very similar to the one I just talked about in that you have fantasy kingdom that has been overthrown, and so we have this princess that's trying to reclaim her throne and she becomes part of like a revolution, but also there's like magical spirits, but you have to make sure that the spirits are on your side, and so you kind of have to do some trading and bidding and whatnot. And you don't want to anger them, because then they can make your life miserable, which is kind of not a thing you want when you're trying to overthrow a regime and get your kingdom back. But yeah, there's 4 books. These were kind of cool too, because this is a really new series, and instead of having to wait 6 to 12 months for the next one, they came out, boom, one after the other this winter.
Oh,
so,
I like that.
Yeah, so if you're looking to just kind of sink your teeth into like a 4-book series, this is it. Because it's not a trilogy. It can be a series because it's more than 3. We had this conversation earlier in Get Books. So yeah, so I actually want to read these, but I can't because someone has the first one out. But it should come back soon. So yeah, read these.
Alright, my next one is a YA called Prince in Disguise. So this is about a girl, and I forget her name, Dylan. And Dylan's sister, Dusty, went on this reality TV show and met this guy, who turned out to be, of course, a prince in disguise. And now they are going to Scotland? I think it's Scotland. Yep. Scotland for the wedding, which is also being filmed by the reality company.
That's a lot of pressure.
It is, and Dylan is not interested in being a reality star, and her life has changed, and paparazzi follow her a little bit because of her sister, and you know, it's a royal wedding, so things are not great because there's lots of things happening, and she's like, no, I don't care. I'm not interested in any of that. But there's a boy, and they're in like a big fancy house or castle, and there's some secret passageways, and it's really cute. This is a YA book. So, very fun.
Cool. So I, of course, I'm a Star Wars fan, so I have to mention Princess Leia. So this is Claudia Gray's Princess Leia YA book that came out, I think, last year? No, 2 years ago. It came out recently, within the past 5 years. We'll leave it there. So this is pretty cool. So this is Princess Leia at 16. And I want to say Admiral Holdo as a teen is also in this one too. It's been a while since I've read it, and they all kind of blur together. My bad. But it's pretty cool. So it's all about Princess Leia being a kid and trying to figure out like all the things she's supposed to do as princess, but also like leading her people and whatnot, and kind of also maybe discovering that her family are more than they seem. Like there's a rebel alliance, and they could be like working with that. Like that's kind of a bigger plot reveal when you're a kid. And you're like, oh snap, that's a thing. So that's this one. So this is kind of like origins of Princess Leia. Whereas this one is a comic by Charles Soule that came out in like the initial Star Wars runs with the reboot, or not reboot, but the next part of the franchise. So this one takes place in between episode 4 and 5, and it's all of the refugee people from Alderaan who are like, okay, that's great, you're in the Rebel Alliance, but you're still our ruling princess. We need a place to live. What are you going to do for us? And so it's her wrestling with authority of like, I have responsibilities for the Rebel Alliance. We have to keep taking down the Empire, but then also I have my lost refugee people. We have to find a home for them. And how do I reconcile and do both jobs? That's a lot of stress. Also think about it. She's in her early 20s when all this is happening. I couldn't do that in my early 20s. I could barely drive a car. So seriously, I'm horrible at parallel parking. But yeah, so this is a really cool, and it's just like it's just a one-shot comic. It's not a series. What you got next?
All right, I have a Countess Below Stairs. This is by Ibbotson. This is kind of like a YA book. It can go either way. It's right after the Russian Revolution, and Anna, who was a Russian countess, is now penniless. She flees to England, where she finds a job below stairs. No one knows that she's a countess, and there may or may not be a romance with the Earl, whose house she's in. Okay, there's a romance.
Did you actually pick books with princesses or just royals?
There are. Princesses are royals. I don't understand the question.
Okay, because I went a strict princess line here. So.
Okay, this is my only one where she's not a countess.
Okay.
But there's princesses. There's princes in this one. and she talks with the queen, and she is 34th in line for the throne, and Celia's a princess.
Okay, just checking. Because you set the theme, so I was like, I'm following the theme.
Related to the prince. Yeah, it's because you wanted to unfollow it last week.
Yes.
She's still talking about that, by the way.
I'm just mad I didn't, like, lean into that pun.
I didn't
Anyway.
think about it sooner.
I know, I'm so mad. Alright, so getting back to the actual princess theme, I read, this is one of the Adventure Time graphic novels, and while Marceline, the Vampire Queen, hold on, is on the cover, this is actually a story that involves a lot of Princess Bubblegum. So there's this huge rainstorm, and they make Jake the dog, who can be any shape, like be this giant umbrella over the Candy Kingdom, and like everybody's getting washed away. And they're also candies, so everything's like dissolving with all the rain. And so they're trying to figure out like, why is it raining? And they're like, this doesn't make any sense. And like, PB is very much about science. So she's like, the clouds that make like thunder and lightning, these aren't the correct clouds. Like, what is going on? And then Marceline's just like, yeah, whatever, and like flies up, and she's like, oh, this is not good. There's a bunch of like cloud hooligans that are basically having motorcycle races above the Candy Kingdom, and they're causing all this thunder and lightning, because they're elemental beings. And so like it's a huge like, one of the thugs like comes down, and he's just like, yeah, so like, what are you gonna do about it? We're gonna bike here until we can't go home. And he's like, what do you want to like challenge us to a race? And she's like, yeah, I will. And Princess Bubblegum doesn't know how to like race a motorcycle, so you can see this goes very badly. So it's a really funny comic, and it's very Adventure Time. And there's cool motorcycle jackets at the end, which was fun.
Alright, my last book is about a princess. It's Princess Mia's Royal Wedding. So, I've talked about May Cabot before. She is my, probably one of my favorite authors. Anyways, if you loved the Princess Diaries series, this is Mia getting married to Michael. Obviously, they do not follow, books and movies do not really follow each other for the most part. And of course, everything is different, and Grandmere is being Grandmere and terrible, and, it's fantastic.
True.
May Cabot also wrote a bunch of short stories about Genovia and during the quarantine and COVID, and those are on her website. If you haven't read those, they're very good.
I did not know that.
Yes.
I get a little frustrated though sometimes because like every couple of years the whole cast is like, yes, we would come back to do Princess Diary 3.
They are coming back. They're just trying to work it out.
Are they? Okay. Because
Fingers crossed.
like Princess Diaries is one of those movies that makes me feel better about life when the world is a trash fire, which is kind of 2020 right now.
Everyone has said they would come back.
Mm-hmm.
Like Chris Pine will come back, Mia will come back, Julie Andrews will come back.
Did you see the TikTok with the cats?
Yes! That was funny.
I love it. I would do it with mine, but I wouldn't have ears. So, my last book is about a princess of the Amazons, Wonder Woman. So, this is the newest reboot of the Wonder Woman franchise for DC. And this is the adult comic. Well, I mean, teens could read it too. It's not, like, cool. But, like, we have our new, like, YA middle grade line. This is the regular standard issue Wonder Woman. So G. Willow Wilton, who wrote for Ms. Marvel for a very long time, had stopped writing Ms. Marvel, and so this is her new series, or one of her new series. And it's pretty interesting because in this one, Ares has been locked in Themyscira, like Ares the god of war, and he does something to get out that causes a disbursement of Themyscira. And there's a question about, does Themyscira, Wonder Woman's home island, actually still exist? Is her mother alive or not? Meanwhile, we have all of these gods and goddesses, and they're not really sure how they ended up on Earth, because like even the Olympians have been dispersed, because like Aphrodite shows up and she's great, she's very funny and sarcastic. Steve Trevor does not like her. And also she's like, people keep trying to make me wear clothes. What is this about you Earth people? It's really funny, but that's really funny. There's humor in it, so which is kind of cool because it deals with a lot of identity issues of like, Ares, the god of war, is like, I don't want to be the god of war anymore. I understand justice. I want to be the god of justice. And Wonder Woman's like, but you're the god of war, and wherever you go, you cause problems. And so while these gods are grappling with who they are and what they want to be, there's also the question of, like, who is Diana Prince, and who does she want to be? Like, she's the princess of the Amazons, but she's also, like, the defender of the U.S., you know, and there's also the question of like what is morally right and wrong, because Willow gets into the whole idea too of the U.S. isn't always on the right side of a war, and things are much more complicated than they used to be. And how does Wonder Woman work out those complications in a way that is fair and just and loving? Because that's who she is. So it's pretty cool. The art is good. I like the covers by Terry Dodson are awesome. There's some variant stuff in the back of Jenny Frison, who also did art for it. But it's a pretty solid reboot. If you haven't read a lot of Wonder Woman, you can kind of just jump right in because it kind of tells you what you need to know. Just, you know, she's the Percy Jackson of the DC world. So.
Cool. Mm-hmm. So one thing I do want to mention is on our catalog, under staff picks, we have 2 bookshelves of royal books. One is Royal Romances, which is my jam, and the other one is just Royal Reads, which is also my jam. Royal Romances are a little bit higher up for me.
So are they both adults, or is like
No, it's a mix.
Okay.
It's a mix. So check those out if you like Royal Reads and you're looking for more than all the things we talked about today.
Right, and to get to that, you go to our catalog and you click on the staff picks tab. We've been creating virtual bookshelves in there. So Jen has a couple of them. I know Alexis has done some. I've done some. So there's a fair amount of different stuff for different people, and we will keep updating it as it goes along because pandemic.
That is true.
Well, thanks for joining us this week. We'll see you next week.